Welcome to Central Valley Writers Workshop. Our great valley is home to many writers, authors, and people who are looking for ways to improve their writing techniques. Our hope is that as we interview authors and other writing experts, that you will learn from their expertise and be able to improve your own writing. I'm your host, Claudia Newcorn, author of the Chrysalis Chronicles of Fairy, magazine editor, and community columnist for the Modesto Bee. Today we have as our guest Jan Noble. She is the author of Home with God, The Restoration of Your Spiritual Soul. I've known Jan for over 10 years, and she has been both a mentor and a teacher for me during that time. Jan, thank you very much for being with us here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy you're having me.
You're a very experienced author. You have not only 2 books under your belt, but you actually were invited to contribute to another book. Would you be kind enough today to tell us a bit about Home with God and give us some background on what inspired you to write that book?
Okay, I would love to. I never knew I was going to write a book called Home with God. I had already written figure shaping years before and thought that was all I was going to be writing. Even though writing is my passion, it's not my avocation, but it's my passion. And I knew when I was a kid that I was going to write when I grew up. Found it kind of hard though because I'm pretty sociable. So I didn't understand that I needed to be able to allow myself to write and still be a social person.
Okay.
Home with God is a book that I intuitively knew that I needed to write someday, but I also knew that I needed to be able to finish living it before I could write it. So it wasn't something that came to me that I needed to write to convey a message. It was more a life story. It's like a memoir, if you will, of experiences that I've had that I attribute to living in concert with what I believe God wants for us as His children. And so it's kind of an inspirational work.
Really, it's from what I've read on it, it is spiritual self-discovery. Is
Yes.
how you're writing a personal journey,
Yes.
and from a genre standpoint, you're writing about spiritual self-discovery.
Right.
What,
Exactly.
What inspired you? I mean, again, a book is a lot of work. What inspired you to set aside the time out of what I know is an extremely busy schedule to go ahead and write this?
I resisted for years. I kept getting a feeling that it was time to write my book, and I kept saying, no, I'm not ready. This book will be about spiritual experiences, and I don't know if people are ready to hear what I have to say. And I don't know if I'm ready, if I've experienced everything that I need to in order to make it work in a book. If it's not going to help somebody to discover something about their own lives, then there's no point in writing it. So I didn't write it for me. I wrote it for whoever reads it.
Okay.
And I needed to be able to convey my own personal, very deeply heartfelt personal experiences to someone else. Whoever picks that book up and reads it, and when they do, they always call me and tell me, oh my God, I got something so powerful from this. Thank you so much. They usually are crying. It's that kind of a book.
Okay.
And so I felt like I was being asked to write this book.
Well, one of the things you were mentioning there is this is really personal experiences in turn which you're taking and you're helping people gain from your knowledge and experience. Can you share with us a bit about your background and what helped lead you into writing this book?
All of those stories are in the book, so I'm going to synopsize a little tiny
Okay.
bit here. When I was a kid, I was raised in the Nazarene Church, and I remember one day I was praying with my sister in church, and something made me feel like I could have the audacity to look up and say, I need for you to talk to me directly. I did that. And I thought for sure I'd be struck down, but I wasn't. And that was shortly before my father passed away. And this story is in the book, but the night that he passed away, I actually witnessed him being taken home. And it's a spiritual event, it's a spiritual story. It's not really religious, it's spiritual, but the two kind of roll together.
Yes.
So I don't want to sound that I'm pontificating, but I witnessed what I call the realms of illumined truth. I witnessed something that happened on another plane, and it was my father being taken home. So that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. I was kind of a psychic kid when I was in my teens.
Yeah.
That just kind of, I didn't know what to make of that. I would have prophetic dreams, and then I started studying. I had an experience in my 20s that led me to start reading a book called The Course in Miracles. And that story is also in the book. And I started on what I called my quest, the path. I've studied metaphysics from the University of Metaphysical Sciences in Southern California. I've always been very interested in mind, body, spirit, wellness. You could say I'm a little tiny bit of a Jesus freak. And that's pretty evident in the book. But again, it's about personal spiritual experiences, visions, intuition, guidance, and walking my path, mostly, is what it's about. And it covers, the reason it's called Home with God is because it covers a very, very intimate experience that I had where I found myself home with God for just a brief moment. And I realized, oh, okay, the Course in Miracles is accurate. This is a dream. And I would like to help bring people to a place where they actually can have that moment home, so they understand that life is worth living and that everything matters. Everything matters. And compassion, love, and forgiveness are the keys to remembering our divine purpose and destiny, if you will. I got a little bit deep there. I'm sorry about that.
No, to the contrary.
That's what the book is about, though.
But this type of book, this genre, if you want to call it that, has to have a very, very powerful message in it. Again, you're revealing a lot about yourself, your personal experiences. You want people to share in those, but at the same time, in many ways, you're being a teacher. As you were presenting your story, again, thinking now as an author, as you were organizing your story, because this is so personal as a memoir, how did you structure it and organize it? Because I know you have a writer's background, in a way that would pull people along and engage them in the story.
I waited until it was all lived. Actually, I thought it was all lived. I finished the book in 2009, and I had 3 more years that I needed to add. So just recently I added the remaining 3 years, and now the book is truly finished and being republished from Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House. So, but it feels finished when you read it, unaware that there's still 3 more years of experiences that are coming in the back end. But I had to wait until I lived those experiences, until I knew in my heart that I was so done you could stick a fork in me. I could go ahead and share that information with people and do it in such a way that they would recognize parts of it in their own lives, because you have to be able to relate.
I agree.
And it's just a spiritual quest. That's really all it is, but it's designed, I believe, to help people find how to step on their very own spiritual quest, whatever that may be, without feeling that all the obstacles are in the way, because I think that's one of the big drawbacks that we have with such an incredible onslaught of information that hits us all the time from different areas in our lives. We sometimes feel pulled. I always
Agreed.
felt pulled. And I hear this a lot from students, that they're not sure what their path is and how to get on it and stay on it, not get pulled away again by friends, activities,
Commitments.
So that's mostly what it's about. Is how I stepped on it. That's the first chapter, is Lost Road, getting back on the right road. And the right road isn't my road. The right road is your road, or whoever's reading the book. They know themselves what their road is. And it just helps you to stay on that until you...
I think one of the things I noticed too as I read part of your book is some spiritual journey books tend to be what I would call preachy. They're sort of standing there on the pedestal and lecturing you and telling you how to do it.
Right.
What I would say is an important characteristic that helped differentiate your book, you are sharing, you're not pontificating.
Yeah, I'll never
you
do that.
are offering insights. The reader has to choose what they want to do from a path standpoint, and to me that's one of the things that makes your book so stand out and stand alone, because you can go to a bookstore and there's scads of these books on the shelf. You're all competing for share of mind. Your book doesn't preach. it really builds on who I know you to be, which is an educator. And I think that's one of the things that makes it very, very special. Did you
you.
set out to do that as an author, to educate?
Yes.
As opposed to tell people what they needed to do?
Right. I could never do that. I don't do that. Even in my classes, I don't do that. We all know. I believe that we already know in our heart who we are, what our lives are about, what is our true reality, and my job is to help people remember what that is by uncovering some of the other things that I've overlaid. And that's how some of the exercises in the book are designed to help people release what they are not, so you can remember what you
And
are.
we'll be back after these messages with guest Jan Noble.
Looking for an elegant restaurant with a personal touch? Open Tuesday through Sunday, Sips Bistro and Wine Shop offers daily specials from their lunch and dinner menus. Fine dining, fine wine, and personal service. Sips Bistro and Wine Shop is the perfect location. Sips Bistro and Wine Shop, 901 Carpenter Road, Suite 39, Modesto.
And welcome back to Central Valley Writers Workshop with our guest, Jan Noble. What did you find as a writer, what did you find most challenging about writing this book?
Getting it started.
How so?
I knew for years that it was time to write it, and I kept resisting, saying, "No, I'm not done. I'm not ready, not ready." And then in 2008, I felt very strongly guided to write the book. After the election, I decided it's time. So I ordered my laptop, and before that I was on a regular desktop, and that's bad for your neck. So I ordered my laptop, I put it on my kitchen table, and I started that day. My girlfriend had come to spend a few days with me, and I tried to explain to her that I needed for her to go ahead and go home, because I have an assignment now and I can't let anything get in, because we would go, to the mountains and
Distractions.
travel. Yes, and those are the kinds of distractions I'm talking about. They're good, they're fun, they're wonderful distractions. It's life. But when you sit down to write a book, you have to be able to put things on hold without adversely influencing or affecting your relationships with people and your work.
An excellent
And that
point.
was, yes. So when I did that, she didn't want to leave. And I said, "Sweetie, please, I need you to sit down and just read these first 30 minutes that I had already written." She sat down, she didn't speak, she read through, I stood and watched her. When she was done, she stood up and she said, "I'm going home. I can't wait to read the entire book."
Really?
Yes, so she left, she packed up, she left, and it took 9 months. I wrote anywhere from 2 to 6, a couple of days, 8 hours, but usually from 2 to 6 hours per day, starting always at the same time, 7:30 in the morning. I have to have some structure on the same spot in my dining room. And within 9 months it was done, and then the fun part was all the editing and getting it ready for publication.
Can you
So-
talk about that? Again, whenever I've spoken with authors who write about their personal journeys, whatever the topic or genre is, one of the greatest challenges they face is they're taking a personal experience, their life experience, and they have to edit it. They have to cut out perhaps things that are very, very important to them. How did you go about editing this without losing what you were trying to share with people?
Well, I self-edited as I wrote. And so when the book was edited, it was mainly edited for punctuation, spelling, grammar, that type of thing. I don't think anything was ever removed. I
Okay.
think that from what I sat down to write and wrote for those 9 months is all still there, with, again, the new edition that brings it to today.
Now, you are head of the Holistic Life Institute in Oakdale. You also help people from a health standpoint. Where do you talk about working 2 to 8 hours to write this book a day across some 9-month period? How on earth did you carve out the time to do that?
I had a lot of help from my teachers. They held down the fort for me in the morning while I was working on the book, and I worked in the afternoons. And I'm kind of a workaholic, so I would start at 7:30, write for however many hours until I knew I was done for the day, and then get ready and go to work and do everything I needed to do in my office, because it's kind of a busy little place. And I managed to do that without adversely affecting my health or anything. because writing is a passion for me, and so I don't feel drained at all when I write. I feel rejuvenated, actually.
When you said that, some writers talk about how it's almost their life's blood, curling up and working on the
Yeah.
writing. How does
Yeah.
writing make you feel?
In the moment. In the moment, and liberated, because they're my stories. They're sharing what I feel is important to share with people. And so I love doing that. I'm a storyteller, I always have been. And writing the stories and seeing them come out and then rereading. And because each day I would reread what I wrote the day before and then carry it forward. It always blew me away. It was like, wow, I wrote that? Because it's like the pen has a mind of its own, or it's just inspired, and I don't lay claim for the whole thing. Let me tell you, it's my experiences, but I write a lot more eloquently than I speak.
Well, it's interesting when you talked about that. I've had people ask me about writing, and what I found is when you use a wonderful phrase, in the moment, you're not writing anymore, you're almost chronicling, and you feel as if the pen is busy or the typewriter keyboard, but you're not sitting there going, he said, she said, he
Right.
said, she said. And I
Right.
think when an author hits that moment in their writing,
Yeah.
it's transcendent.
Yes.
You just,
It is.
It's almost addictive. You want to get back into
Oh,
it
it
because
is.
it's such an incredible experience.
It kind of is. It kind of is. When J.K. Rowling's finished all of her books in the
Harry
Potter
Potter's. Yep.
series, she in an interview she said that her heart was broken because she missed them, because you live it while you're writing
Yes.
it. You actually, I relived those experiences while I was recording them in this book.
Did they in some ways inspire you?
Oh, yeah.
Because you had a chance to go, you had to go back again, look through your life and pluck things out to help people
Yes.
understand that.
Yes,
So for you in some ways, was it a second spiritual journey going through the writing process?
absolutely.
Many people have had amazing lives like you have. What advice would you give them as a coach from the standpoint if they want to write their book about their own spiritual self-discovery? What pointers would you give to them as authors?
Well, I've said this before, create a space. And don't wait to create the space. Because once that's created, it's going to be there so that you'll see it every time you pass by it. So if you're writing spaces in a common area, mine's in the kitchen, on the table, then it's kind of hard to resist it. The moment you close the laptop and put it away so that you can have something else taking place, it's going to sit there for a long time.
Not get done.
Yep, you need to open the space. You need to open the office, if you will. And then I like to partner with God and say something along the lines of, I'm ready to write now, so would you please
Inspire.
gift me with the time and the space that I need to do that, so there are no interruptions. And I even state in this book, the entire time I was writing that book, I was never interrupted. The phone never rang.
Really?
Nope. None of those hours was I ever interrupted by anybody at my door or the phone ringing. There were virtually no interruptions. It's like time stands still. And I believe that happens when you have an important message to convey. And I think that all writers should access that through their own request and simply say, I really need your help, and ask for it.
And guidance.
Ask and you shall receive.
Well, you're writing about spiritual. It's natural
Yes.
that you ask for spiritual guidance in the
Yes.
process.
Yep, that's what it's really about. That's what it's really for.
One of the challenges in writing a book like that is you want to keep readers wanting to turn the next page. What techniques did you use to maintain the momentum in your book?
I think that the stories, because my life gained momentum till it got to the place where I was ready to write the book, the stories convey that, and they just bring it through. So every chapter finishes with the introduction to the next chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is it literally, you mentioned you'd like to read a small poem that you have in the book as an example of some of your writing. Would you be kind enough to do that?
I would love to do that. I didn't pick one out, but I just know that when I open it, it'll be the right
It'll
one.
be the right one.
Yep. That's just kind of how it works. By the way, I wanted to tell you too, for years when I was inspired to write this book, I always had a vision of this cover. With the ocean and the setting sun and me standing with my arms like this. That is not me.
Who is it?
That is not me. Well, as I got older, And I knew that someday I would write a book that would have that on the cover. I kept saying, if you want me to write that book, and I don't even know what it's going to be, you better help me lose 30 pounds so that I can stand like that on the edge of the shore. And finally, when I realized it will be a spiritual book. So it's not a book about my physicality, it's a book about spirit.
Yes.
So when I sent it to the author, to the publisher, and they were ready to put the jacket on, they asked me what I wanted on the cover, and I said, gee, I don't know. You come up with something. This is what they sent. Exactly
Really?
what I had been shown for years.
So your vision, without your assistance, manifested on the cover. That's
Yes.
amazing.
So people think that's me. I'm like, oh, no. Maybe 40 years ago. All right. Well, the one that I opened to is my angel, and the book
Okay.
just opened to it.
Please share it.
I may cry. The poems that are in this book, by the way, are segues between chapters.
Okay.
But they came to me in 1997, 8, and 99, during a time when my mom was passing. And they came to me early in the morning. At 5:20, I would hear a bird sing out my bedroom window. And then I knew it was time to get up and go and sit down at the computer. And then I would just close my eyes and listen, and the words would come. And I wrote these, and I called them speakings. And the name of the original work was When the Birds Sing, Spirit Speaks. And so, but I didn't do anything with it. I put it away. And then when I wrote this book and it was done, then I was kind of guided, get out the speakings and insert them.
So they are part of the transition from
Yes.
chapter to
Yes.
chapter. Beautiful.
And some of these speakings are stories that actually are experiences that I've experienced.
Wow. Please.
Okay, this one's called My Angel. This is an actual experience. Happened in 1997. Nothing could have prepared me for the moment I first met my angel. It was 8 feet tall, purest white, and was complete, without gender. Its wings were as wide as its height, which was tricky to gauge as it floated in the air above me in the middle of the night. Only 3 feet of distance separated us as we faced each other, building a bridge between heaven and earth. We embraced arms, and as we touched, I could only exclaim, "My angel!" All of my hopes, my distant memories of reality, the forgotten truth of who we are, flooded through my heart. This was not just any ordinary angel. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was my angel. Somehow, it was me. Beckoned to my presence from the highest realm by request of my spirit. A profound and loving statement from God, remember.
Absolutely beautiful, Jan.
Thank you.
It's poetry and prose combined.
Thank you.
But that is a transition piece. What a wonderful author's art. You've actually worked art into your writing here to help people go with the book. Beautiful. My compliments.
Thank you. I'm so glad I can't wait until you read the rest of those poems.
Oh, well, from a poet to a poet.
I know you're a poet.
Oh,
and
yeah. I'm a
I
poet
can't-
and I know it.
Yes.
But I mean, I think people in reading the book will enjoy both from what you're sharing, but also in the way you've structured it as an author. The art of using poetry as transition is very unique. No others of our writers have actually talked about using that as a technique. When you're thinking about the type of book that you're writing there, is there any advice or just general advice you could share with authors and writers? Because you've written, actually, as I said, 2 books and are involved with a 3rd. What tips or pointers, additional ones beyond what you've shared with us, would you like to have our audience know about for ways to make their writing more productive and better for them?
I'm thinking that if they feel inspired in their writing, they should just continue to go with it. But if they feel blocked, they might want to go to EFT.com, emofree.com, and use Emotional Freedom Technique to remove the block. Because a lot of times people get blocked.
Yes.
A lot of times I resisted writing this for a long time until I pretty much knew, okay, and I did. I think I used a little EFT to remove my block. And it's a really, really neat, handy way to do that. If somebody is writing and they're feeling, they're struggling, they're feeling stuck, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
or
well, writer's block. There's a common. How often
Okay.
have you had people tell you, I have writer's block? Or another common complaint is, I can't write because it's not perfect the first time it comes out.
Oh, okay. That's something you could definitely EFT, because that's an expectation. And now I understand your question. We surround ourselves with expectations, and when we don't meet them, we become disillusioned with ourselves.
Very true.
The very first thing I had to do before writing anything was lose my expectations and let myself be and let it be, and whatever came out, let that flow. And if it's not good enough, that's okay. I did it.
Don't set
good
your
enough for me.
objectives that high that you
Yes.
actually create barriers to writing.
Because we do that all the time. We do that in all walks of life, not just in writing. People do that all the time. They want to wait until the time is perfect. A lot of people don't want to meet their honey or their true love because they don't feel they look just right, or they don't feel like they're healthy enough, and so they keep it at bay. You know what? Those are barriers that just need to come down. We need to just go ahead and get into the business of living and doing what it is we're passionate about.
Well, that is a wonderful message. You talked a little bit before we started our interview about the book that you were invited to contribute to. It's over on your table as well. Would you tell us a little bit about manifesting? Because one of the things I think that's very important is people discover, as you said, they've got blocks.
Yeah.
They have dreams or goals or aspirations. So tell us, how were you invited to write for this
Excellent.
book? And tell us a little bit about your chapter.
Beautiful, beautiful. I would love to do that. When Home with God was published, I was invited to participate with a website called authorsden.com. So I did. And I put it up. I put the pictures, the reasons why I wrote the book, the whole 9 yards. And a publisher who publishes Adventures in Manifesting was looking through those one day and found me and called me and asked me if I would participate by writing a chapter for their next issue. Joe Vitale is in here, and he's like the leading guru in America of manifestation. If you remember the video, The Secret?
Yes.
And the book, The Secret, he was one of the main speakers on that.
Uh-huh.
So there are 31 authors in here that all have contributed the manner in which they manifested their heart's desire and the tools that they used in this book.
Jan, I'd really like to thank you for being here with us today. You've shared a lot of wonderful insights and techniques to our viewers on what's involved in writing a book that involves spiritual self-discovery. Before we close the show, I would very much like to invite you to pull the pineapple. It's become a tradition on the show that visiting authors and guests pull out one of our pineapples and add their books to the bookshelf. Would you be so kind as to join our author list?
I would love to. Okay. There we go.
And again, thank you so much for being with us on our show.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I would like to invite our viewers that if you'd like to learn more about Jan Noble, author of Home with God, please visit the KAZV TV website. There you can learn more about her background, her books, and her many experiences as an author. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank you all for viewing our show, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next Central Valley Writers Workshop. Have a wonderful day.
Nothing could have prepared me for the moment I first met my angel. It was 8 feet tall, purest white, and was complete, without gender. Its wings were as wide as its height, which was tricky to gauge as it floated in the air above me in the middle of the night. Only 3 feet of distance separated us as we faced each other, building a bridge between heaven and earth. We embraced arms, and as we touched, I could only exclaim, "My angel!" All of my hopes, my distant memories of reality, the forgotten truth of who we are, flooded through my heart. This was not just any ordinary angel. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was my angel. Somehow, it was me. Beckoned to my presence from the highest realm by request of my spirit. A profound and loving statement from God, remember.